Hello, everyone. We are D&D Breakfast Club. We wanted to invite you to our table today to talk about some D&D on a new show we're starting called Insight Check. It's going to be a show where we talk about everything 5th edition D&D related. This week, we're going to be talking about what got us into D&D in the first place and what keeps us coming back every week. Josh, why don't you start us off?
So how I got into D&D, I think I was in middle school somewhere, and there were a couple of guys that played, and I sort of got into it, but I didn't actually play D&D originally. My first game was Rifts, so I'd play Rifts for a little while with those guys, and Rifts is kind of a complicated game. It's got a lot of like skills, and there's a lot of stuff going on numerically, and so then we moved from that to D&D, which seemed kind of simpler. I think it was 3.5, maybe 3.0. I don't know. But there was a THACO, whatever version of THACO was.
It's 2.
Was it 2? Maybe I came in at 2. Did an armor class of 0. And yeah, so it was just like a fun thing to do. And the guy's house that I went to hang out over, his older brother played, who was around 21, and he used to give us drinks, and we would get super high, and so that was kind of my draw at the time. And then, I've played a lot of games. I played live action stuff. I've played One World by Night, vampire stuff. World of Darkness is actually one of my favorite settings. So I played a lot of those games. And I just kind of kept like falling into these friend groups that played games. That's what we did. And then I got older, and now it's almost like, how some guys get together and have poker night once a week and they sit and play poker with their buddies or whatever. It's really just a vehicle to have a reason to hang out with people. I think that's kind of what D&D turned into for me, is that like, these are the guys I hang out with and this is what we do. And so it's like my social outlet. Also, I enjoy number crunching a lot. And so I like crunching through character after character, seeing where I can get them to go as I level them up artificially, just to see what it's like for fun.
How many characters do you have on the back burner right now?
I have 5 extra characters hanging out in the back burner at all times, because 6 is the maximum amount of characters that you can have with D&D Next, but I'm constantly deleting some of the characters and then making new ones and playing with different like race class combos or multi-class combos or feat class combos, just because I like it. I really enjoy that.
What about you, Matt?
Well, it's because of you, Ryan, actually. But I guess I started role-playing, I guess I was 12 or 13. Those 2 years, I did the Star Wars role-playing game. I actually did play a couple Rift games, but as a starter, that stuff was way over my head. So we didn't do too many sessions with Rifts, but it seemed like always a cool game. But then moved away from those friends, and then just boom, instantly stopped. It was like a life-changing thing, and I got into high school at that point, and I just kind of forgot. And then I moved up here, and I met Ryan, right? And Ryan slowly discovered that I was a huge nerd as well. And well,
You're like a closet nerd.
Yeah, I'm a closet nerd, maybe. I'm not afraid to shout it. So he finally got me to come over here and do the session 0, which I was absolutely hungover for. I'll never do that again. We start slowly getting into it again, and I was extremely intimidating to be around. I don't know. I'm going to take a guess, but there's probably about 50 years of experience in this room right now. Would you say? How long did you play?
I'd say 40, probably.
40 or so?
Playing off and on, probably for like 27 years, roughly.
Maybe we have around.
Yeah, right. So like, it's intimidating because everybody knows what they're talking about. But it's such a great group of guys. They're always helping me, even with my math, because geez. It's fun to develop a character. It's even more fun to make that character grow. And Ryan's been coming up with a great story. There's moving parts in the background, which is interesting. This is my first character in 17 years or whatever it's been. Over 20 years, actually. So I don't know. It's fun. I don't think my nephew had been, who's similar to my age, has been trying to get me to play with him, but I don't think if I would have played with him, who's not as experienced, I don't think it would have caught on with me as much. I wouldn't do this weekly because he doesn't have all the knowledge. It really helps to be around a group of experienced guys. Not to say if you don't play D&D and you're watching this video, not to play it and give it a chance, because you totally should. It's definitely not what I, thought I was going to be.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What about you, Alex?
Let's see. So I got into D&D because of Critical Role, actually. I started watching it, and it was something that was always interesting to have in the background while I was working, so I would do that. And after a while, I got to the point where I'd actually start watching them live, and after literally hundreds of hours, because each episode is like 4 hours, and they had 50 episodes or something like that in the first campaign even. And eventually I started liking the numbers part of D&D. I was looking for people to play with, and a friend of mine, Mike, was like, hey, I know somebody who's starting up D&D. So oh, cool, join with them. Eventually he fell away from it, but I kept coming back. For the most part, I would say for me, the reason I keep coming back is it really is more about the people that you play D&D with that makes it fun. Like, the game itself is fun, but if you don't have a good group to do it with, then you're probably not going to stick with it. So, yeah, you guys are really good about, unless, it's holidays, which I'm sure everyone has plans. We consistently do it, so it's been a lot of fun.
I'd say we probably do 48 out of 52 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little less if anyone's sick or holidays, but yeah, every week. What about you, Brian?
See, I started with Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 in, I want to say, 2007. So when I first moved to Minnesota, and I had no idea what I was signing up for when the group invited me. And so when I was told about the game, I was given a real brief run through of kind of what it's like. And so I made a halfling bard. And I had no idea what to do. So I wrote a 3.5-page backstory. I wrote 4 songs that the bard had written about his story. I got super into making this person. And I mean, it was fun. 3.5 bards were really weak, but I didn't ever really feel that. And even maybe it's because of that, but I've always enjoyed the characters that are weaker than they're supposed to be. The ones that you can find where they want to do a thing, but they're just not capable of doing it like everyone else around them. And so I always try to keep a little bit of that. Throughout the years, we've played a million different games, a million different systems. We've had groups that were rowdy on Friday nights and stay up till midnight, 1 a.m, drinking and cavorting. Sometimes everyone would be paying attention. Sometimes everyone's dinking around on their computers. Right now, I think this group is the most focused one I've ever played with. And as I've got 2 kids, so I can't stay out super late. I can't do a lot of the things that I used to do when I was younger, but now I get a chance to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and start my day off right. And it just suits me quite a bit better than some of my previous experiences.
Start your day off right with some D&D.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, let's see. I started when I was 7, was my first role-playing experience. My oldest brother brought a game to us called Toons. So I ran it for a group, but none of these guys once. And what it is you can make a cartoon character. So if you think like Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote, or you can make Tweety Bird or Tom and Jerry. Like, you can make whatever you want. And they all have instead of charisma, I think you have like moxie, and instead of strength, you have might. And that was actually really fun. It was the first experience I had with a tabletop role-playing game where I was just immersed into this world where I can do anything. But my favorite part and the most memorable part about it is you all get a special ability. So maybe your toon starts out as a little mouse that turns into a giant were-rat or something. Or maybe your toon has a thing they'd call like a bottomless pocket, and you can pull something out of it forever, like a boat's oar. You keep pulling it out of your pocket. Or you might have a portable hole like Bugs Bunny, and you throw it on the wall, or you throw it on the ground, and you can go to another hole somewhere else. It was a really cool game, and that's what I started with. And we played that a few times. I didn't get to play it a lot. And then I was introduced in my later years in high school to Rifts. So I think a lot of us had, well, 3 of us have had experience with Rifts, and Brian's played it once. And it's
like a
very
campaign.
complex. Compared to D&D, it's like
It's got a lot of moving parts.
so many numbers you have to remember, and the mechanics are much more difficult, but they're very immersive. And your skills, you roll percentile dice, you might have a 68% chance to succeed on something. Much different than D&D. And there's 50-some skills. There's not 15.
Yeah.
Really fun game, and I played that a few times. Then I started DMing it. And then when I met Josh, I DM'd it for a long time.
Never play a Rifts game that Ryan DMs. Don't do it.
Hey,
I'm still butthurt from that first game where I played a Mind Melter and you cut my balls off.
so I was young.
It was so bad.
Early 20s, and this is actually the biggest part of Rifts that it's his biggest problem is there's no balance. You could be a really powerful cyborg, and this guy over here, he's like a spy. So when it comes to combat, the cyborg obviously is going to win.
Yes.
But Josh decided to play a Mind Melter who was just the most powerful, and they went to a world where his powers didn't work right.
It didn't work at all.
And I was younger, and I was unable to accommodate someone being too powerful for everyone else in the party. And I think that's a big problem a lot of DMs deal with, is like power creep and how you deal with players that have different power levels. Anyways, I've gotten better over the years. So
This is true.
I
you
could
just
run
have to
another
worry
Rifts
about
game.
the players cutting your legs off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
You only have to worry about your friends now. But after that, man, we played till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. sometimes.
Oh man, yeah,
4
we used to play
a.m.
to like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then we'd crash for a little bit and wake up at 4:30 and go down to Canal Street after a quick nap.
Yeah, so
That was bad.
we played 6 to 8 hour sessions a lot of times. I mean, we played that game a lot. But then we got into D&D, more of the fantasy trope, and I kind of like the fantasy maybe a little better than the sci-fi. I'm not really sure, but played 3.5, played 4th edition, and then 5th edition came out, and that's where we landed. I really like 5th edition. What about you guys?
5th edition seems like it's the most balanced. Like there's still some classes that are obviously, or mostly subclasses. Some subclasses are obviously better than others at stuff, but it seems like everybody gets a good slice of the pie. Everybody's pretty good at something. I didn't like 4th. 4th edition was like the A-track of D&D. If you're a 4th edition designer and you ever watch this, I'm so sorry, but you fucked it up. Yeah.
What about you guys? What do you think about 5th?
I haven't played anything other than 5th.
Oh.
Critical Role started at, they converted from Pathfinder to 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I've ever known. That's why a lot of times when people are like, oh, is this a thing or is that in earlier editions? I'm like, it's this. I know because I've heard it before. And it's the only thing I've heard.
There you go. You don't get confused with older editions.
Exactly.
What about you, Brian? 3.5 to 5th.
I would say they're overall very pleased with it because it's pretty wide open and it leaves a lot of room for whatever you want to do. There's a couple things that seem underwhelming, particularly things are they're left up to DM discretion. Things like illusions or enchantment magic, for example, where it used to be complete mind control. Now it's you get advantage to be nice to someone. It's like, that's a 6th level spell. That seems unpractical. Impractical.
I'm taking this.
Or even how often advantage comes up. Like if you are going to play as somebody that needs that, like as a rogue, maybe it's because I'm playing something that doesn't need that, but I don't know how to do it. Can I just say, make it so I have advantage? Or do I have to describe it? I don't know. Maybe that's something that I just have never invested in. But it seems like it's unwieldy enough that I am cautious about investing in it.
Bonus question. What's your favorite tabletop role-playing game?
First edition Mage, or second edition Mage, whatever the new Mage edition. I like Mage, the Ascension. It's a White Wolf game. I don't know which edition I favor, but I like the way that it's super open-ended, and like you get these spheres of influence, but within that you can do pretty much whatever you want as long as it's not more powerful than your rating in that sphere of influence. So I really dig Mage. It's really imaginative, so I like that.
Matt?
Josh, we're the D&D Breakfast Club.
I mean, I like D&D too.
Yeah.
It's not like we're being sponsored. You can say what you feel.
D&D is probably my favorite role-playing game.
I would say D&D. I like the fantasy feel of it. It's kind of that warriors versus orcs, ogres. And that's always been more of my ideal situation. I'm less into sci-fi, more into knights in shining armor kind of thing.
I would say that as far as Smash stuff kind of role-playing, some of the White Wolf games have a pretty good advantage over D&D. Something like an Aberrant or Scion, both games that I've run far more often than I've played, just because of the way these things worked out. But they are wildly powerful, and you can be, a half god or a superhero or a super villain. Not really either of those, just a super powerful person.
Mm-hmm.
But those are wildly unbalanced, and they don't really lend themselves to a lot of role playing. But if you're just looking to smash a couple GI Joes together and talk about it for a few hours, those definitely win there. But for overall experience, I think 5e or even 4e. I liked 4th edition a lot more than some people. I think those kind of take the cake.
I would say my favorite edition of any tabletop role-playing game is probably Rift's Ultimate Edition. Rifts is, again, very complex, but you can do so much. I ran it a lot. I probably ran it more than I've run D&D, and I don't ever get to play it anymore. I don't think I've actually played it since I was like 17. Because you don't get to play the games that you love, you get to run them.
That's the truth.
I think all three of us said that same thing,
right.
basically.
Yeah.
Although my favorite game to run is probably Aberrant. But I run Mage because I don't get to play it. So you're right. Yeah, that's the thing.
So that'll be my favorite game. But there's a couple I'll mention. Paranoia, really fun game. Toons, if you ever get to check it out, Toons is fun, especially for the kids. Really easy to give to kids. And they can just pick it up and roll with it. And 5th edition, out of all the D&Ds. 5th edition did it right.
I always wanted to play Orpheus. It's like the appendix of games. No one ever plays that White Wolf game, ever. I ran it one time, and it was a horrible flop. But I really want to play someday.
Is that
Maybe
the ghost
someday.
one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it did not go over well.
I don't think I was there that day.
It was bad. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next episode.